Hi, I'm Bob Gymlan. Southeast Wisconsin was home to a rash of sightings of a werewolf-type creature in the early 90s. These reports combined into a creature referred to locally as the Beast of Bray Road. The Beast of Bray Road is very different from Bigfoot. My video, Bray Road Beast, Canid Sightings, focuses on the werewolf or Dogman type reports, whereas this video will focus on the Hominoid sightings. Sightings of the ape-type creatures, and or man-like creatures, depending on your particular point of view. And as a note, hominid and hominin are both hominoid. Anyway, some legitimate Bigfoot reports got lumped into the jurisdiction of Dogman. And Dogmen are very different from Bigfoot, and the legend of Bray Road began with obvious and overt werewolf sightings. A journalist named Linda Godfrey sketched one of the first Beast of Bray Road reports. Clearly something werewolf-like, as opposed to Bigfoot-like. It leaves little doubt regarding what the witnesses claim to see. Many Dogman reports were accompanied by occult activity and superstitious happenings. And I have a video about that. But this video is about genuine Bigfoot reports that were incorrectly sorted into the Beast of Bray Road canine category. So let's take a look at those. In 1991, 2 years after the first whispers of the alleged Beast of Bray Road began, a woman named Doris Gibson was driving on a highway near the supposed stomping grounds of the canine-inclined creature. Suddenly, something bumped and rolled under her right tires. She pulled over to inspect the damage on her vehicle and identify just what she had struck, as she didn't see anything when the collision occurred. But as soon as she exited her car, she saw something massive and brown rising off the ground. It began to move toward her at an alarming rate of speed. Barely out of her vehicle, she jumped back in and floored it. Straight to the police department, actually. The Walworth Police Department, as if standard operating procedure, kindly directed her to Animal Control Officer Fredrickson of Walworth County Animal Control. She reported that the animal was bigger than anything she was familiar with. She saw long, brown, straight hair, a massive heaving chest. She heard the pounding of heavy feet, moving quickly toward her. She had a baby in the car. In her report, she never said werewolf. It is important to note that this is one of the many conundrums of this particular cryptid case study. Gibson had not heard of the legend at this point, but the incident did occur on Halloween, which to me correlates to hoax or something else at work. But she was a busy working mom, with little time or I'd imagine patience for such games. So is the fact that this took place on Halloween a coincidence? I have no idea. What about you? Also in 1991, an anonymous couple reported seeing a dark figure lit up in the woodline as they approached their home. They said the figure's eyes were about 7 feet off the ground, glowed gold, and were too far apart to be a cow. They only saw it for a second, but they both found it significantly frightening. When they got home, they joked about not letting their 90-pound Doberman out. But when they did, he immediately wanted to come back inside, and the backyard smelled like rotting meat. Which reminded me of an article I read a while back entitled Wild Western Lowland Gorilla Signals Selectively Using Odor by Drs. Michelle Kalova and Phyllis Lee. They note that Diane Fossey, a personal hero of mine, was the first of many to notice a, quote, pungent, rotten meat smell emitted by gorilla when in a state of stress or aggression. The fact that such a smell is a common staple in North America's Sasquatch reports as well as African apes is absolutely no coincidence. The couple also notes that in the 60s, a creature called the Eddy, a play off the word Yeti, was reported to be killing game and pets from the nearby Kettle Moraine forest system, a system which I am quite familiar with. Then director of the Lakeland Animal Shelter, a man named Martin Boehner, described unusual tracks found by Potter's Mill near Bray Road. There are no existing photos of these, though there were photos taken. The Lakeland Animal Shelter also had a report from a Burger King employee seeing a large creature sprinting across a road. The witness could, quote, not believe how fast it ran or how much power it had. In 1993, a man living in Delevan, relatively near Bray Road, reported that in 1964, between midnight and 1 a.m., he saw a 7 to 8 foot tall, 500-pound, man-type thing running parallel with the road. He said it ran about 300 yards and easily leaped a 5-foot fence. The Delevan man described it as, quote, running on 2 legs, swinging its arms, scared the devil out of me. He also noted that it leaned forward as it ran. He also mentioned that it was his opinion that a man maybe could jump the fence, but probably would roll over the fence. But the creature he saw jumped it. The anonymous Delevan man was adamant that he did not see a human being on that night, but something like it. Now I know nothing about this anonymous Delevan man or his report, but for some reason, I trust it. He said he saw a 500-plus pound man-like animal running parallel to his vehicle, keeping pace. This may not be a clinical method of examination, but if I were to metaphorically put myself in the Delevan man's shoes, and I had experienced this, the introduction to my report, immediately after the fact, would probably be just about the same as his. It was running on 2 legs, swinging its arms, scared the devil out of me. Though the last line would probably be altered because we're no longer in 1964. If I saw a massive hairy man-ape keeping pace with my car, the 3 dominant elements of the encounter would certainly be running on 2 legs, swinging its arms, and was terrifying. Then our dear anonymous Delevan witness goes further to speculate and specifically mention that a human probably could jump the 5-foot fence that the creature did. But this anonymous Delevan witness, who I've developed an odd form of camaraderie with, went further to speculate that a person probably would have rolled over the fence to avoid injury, be it physical injury or emotional injury. So fairly irrelevant, but I do trust this report from the Delevan man. Even more so, because after his report in 1964, the antics of something very much like this description occurred 8 years later, quite nearby. In 1972, a panicked Delevan woman called the DNR agent David Jetson. She said she saw a large ape-like creature walking on her farm. Agent Jetson came to the Delevan property and found no trace, though he found the woman sincere. A couple weeks later, the woman called again. This time she was hysterical. She said that the creature rattled the screen door on her front porch, left a gash above the door, which was over 7 feet from the ground. In the morning, she found one of her stabled horses slashed. DNR agent Jetson returned. He found inconclusive tracks in the partially frozen ground. He did not think the horse's wound was consistent with self-inflicted injuries, as can happen with improperly stabled horses. He had no official explanation. Though again, he found the witness, Delevan woman, completely sincere. The woman sold her property, by the way. She moved to Milwaukee to live with her sister. The DNR agent also noted that the anonymous Delevan woman had hunted her whole life and was familiar with all sorts of game, and it was his opinion that she was not experiencing bear antics. Heading more toward the middle of the state, on the outskirts of Appleton, Wisconsin, a woman named Patty Gill reported experiences with strange creatures between 1958 and 1968. She said it began when she was young and sick with rheumatic fever. Laying in bed, her and her mother heard a, quote, snarl, growl, slobber. That was apparently disturbing to hear. They heard something large clamber over their fence and walk around their house. Their neighbors had similar experiences over a shocking period of 10 years. Gill reported that once, something hairy grabbed her car and shook it for 30 whole minutes. Gill's father went as far as to set up bear traps around the house. Gill states that the encounters were so frequent that many residents had loaded weapons ready. Encounters began in 1958, but slowed in frequency until they completely stopped in 1968. The residents of this particular Appleton suburb believe that the creatures moved on. and in this particular instance, law enforcement thought the matter was a joke. In Price County, a much more rural and forested area than the reports from southeast Wisconsin, a man reported that he saw a, quote, dark figure walking along a ridge. It had a long stride, with arms swinging high during its walk. I thought it was a shadow of a man, walking, but the sun was not out. I previously saw 2 hunters, who were wearing 100% blaze orange. This thing was all dark. I thought it was a landowner coming down to talk to me, but after disappearing behind some bushes, I never saw it again. The distance between us was approximately 100 yards. I became a little uneasy when I heard loud sounds, like branches breaking in the forest, and decided to leave the area. End quote. I think it is important to note that this witness was in a tree stand, a very recently installed tree stand, and that just may be key. So in summation, you have Doris Gibson, who hit something with her car at night. She saw a heaving chest and heard footfalls before she sped off. You have the older couple, who saw a gold eye shine 8 feet off the ground, smelled a foul odor, the same odor that upset their Doberman, and the very same odor which known great apes emit. And this couple was familiar with historical reports from the area. You have the woman who called the DNR in a frenzy over a sighting of a gigantic ape man in her yard that rattled her door and attacked one of her horses. The DNR agent corroborated this, finding her, in his own words, sane and sincere. And it was enough to make her move, I guess. You have that outlying Appleton community, who reported 10 years of encounters, so much so that guns and traps became commonplace in the small suburb. Were the perpetrator a bear, one would think that the traps would have found purchase. Were the perpetrator a human, one would think there would be a corpse. Of course, you have the Delevan Man from 1964, who reported seeing an 8-foot-tall figure jump a 5-foot fence with swinging arms as it ran on 2 legs. You have the hunter from the tree stand, who saw a large creature with swinging arms that unsettled him so that he abandoned his hunt. Incidents like these have been reported all throughout American history and pre-American history. Odors and eye shine, man-like creatures sprinting into the woodline as if they weren't expecting to be glimpsed. Reports of these sightings come from all castes of people: hunters, scientists, hikers, authority figures, natives, the rich, and the poor. These reports strike me as sincere and credible, and having little to nothing to do with Dogman, or beasts from Euro lore. I don't think Bigfoot is of the same ilk as Dogman or the Beast of Bray Road. There may be something to the Dogman phenomena, but I'm not sure that something is zoology. But real or not, people in southeast Wisconsin were claiming to see something that I would regard as high strangeness. And this video did not do Canid reports any justice, so I encourage you to watch my video, Bray Road Beast, the Canid Sightings, for a series of sightings of a more disturbing nature. But in the meantime, make sure you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, thanks an awful lot for listening.